B'Shem Hashem Na'aseh V'Natziach. We're doing the Mesilat Yesharim. Baruch Shechayanu V'Kiyamanu V'Yan La'azman Hazeh. We're in the beginning of chapter 18, Chasidut, which means piousness. Midat HaChasidut tzricha hi be'emet leba'er gadol. He says one of the biggest misconceptions about what true Chasidut is a big gray area and misconception. So he really wants to go into depth to what it means and what it doesn't mean. Because he says a lot of people have customs in the name of Chasidut, ela gomle Chasidut, b'li Torah, b'li surah, b'li tikkun. But it's a chaotic, You don't become a Chassid necessarily by going to the mikveh every day. You understand? It's a superficial Chasidus, which is, or like some people, they do tikkun, like they go into snow. It's like a tohu vavoh type of Chasidus, There's no rhyme or reason to it necessarily. And we know the Mesilat Yesharim is a clear elevator ladder, He wants you to get to Lahavdil. It's like going to pre-1A, nursery, pre-kindergarten, pre-1A, first grade. It's like, right? We're going up this highest echelons of ladder. It's not some random, because it's a direct system of elevation. So that's why he's very גולמי חסידות, exactly. ונמשך מזה חיסון עיון והשכלה אמיתית אשר בא למידותיהם כי לא טרחו ונדרשו לדעת את השם בידיעה ברורה. And then he says the people themselves are doing a great disservice. Because these people, they think they're Hasidim, but they're fake. Because they put a lot of effort in there, and they do authentically probably do want to do a lot of good things, The problem being is that they're not getting closer to know Hashem in a clear knowing. The Yeshara. You understand what that means? A Yashar dikkur thing. Whatever is convenient and comes to their mind to do as Chasidus, they do. There's not a deep contemplation, right? Introspection to understand this is what real Chasidut is. And they really haven't weighed it be'oznei chokhmah, with the most delicate of balances, which is the oznei chokhmah, to know if it's authentic and the real deal what they're doing. These people have given Chasidut what a bad name, bad rap in front of the regular people, and people don't aspire to be Chasidim because they think it's some superficial crazy stuff, hokey pokey, hocus pocus stuff. And even like the elite, the spiritual elite that really should be Chasidim and should go above the letter of the law, they're reluctant to, because they think Chasidut is some wacko, nonsensical, doesn't make sense stuff. Because they think, and he doesn't, he's really, this is something the Ramchal is very famous for and something he's very bitter about. He thinks that's why he doesn't pull any punches. He says the people tend to think that Chasidut is just some hevel verik, some nonsensical thing. They think the whole day you just need to cry and say Tehillim to say, or instead of bowing, you're bowing by Shmona Esrei takes you a second. You should stay down for 10 seconds, right? Or for example, go into freezing cold, snowy mikveh, ice cold mikveh. A lot of things that are very strange. He says it is true. It's brought down in the Arizal. It's brought down in the Sfarim. There is a certain tikkunim to be done for such things. And some of them are appropriate for people that are already gotten to the madrega that we talked about many weeks, right, Shani, of Perishut. But this is not the foundation of Chasidut, right? That's not the goal of Chasidut, right? Which means you always have to know what the main enchilada is, the main dishes, and the side dishes, right? What's happened is this total miscommunication and misinformation of what Chasidut is. Some people think Chasidut is just doing some painful suffering, right? And it's hard to understand how it brings you close to Hashem. It could be some of these are appropriate some of the time. But not all the time is this the definition of Chasidut. You understand? So he says, he says, that's not the definition of Chasidut. To go dip in freezing cold water, ice cold, snowy water. Chasidut is a very deep thing, and we have to understand it clearly, as nobody better than the Ramchal has the tools and the eloquent explanation to explain. He says, actually, the real Chasidut is not just some superficial pain and suffering. Rather, it has a lot of wisdom to it. It has a lot of depth. And it's built on refining our midos extra deep. You understand? And he says it's appropriate for any Chacham Leiv to go after this. He says, what do you mean? People that are... We say this in Pirkei Avot, for crying out loud. It says, Lo am ha'aretz chasid, right? So he says, that's the whole thing, the Ramchal, I think that's probably hitting it in the bullseye, right? That the more you learn Torah, the more richtig you are in Sugis, the more deeper you are in your Hashkafa and Musar, right? You're taking it to the next level. It's not just some superficial actions that don't make any sense, right? And are silly. It's a deep... It's going on from the highest echelons of spirituality and Musar and Yerushalayim, right? And Avodah and serving Hashem and taking it to the extra credit level, but not, some superficial silly acts. So he says, now I'm trying to explain it to you exactly what it is. Very simply, like it says in Brachot, Daf Yud Zayin, the foundation of Chasidut is based on somebody that is toiling in Torah, right? And he wants to give Nachat Ruach. You know what that means? He wants to please his Father in heaven, his Creator. To give Hashem Nachas Ruach. We all know the 613 mitzvot. And we know that we have to be very serious about them. But somebody that loves Hashem, a deep love, the Chassid is somebody that is not satisfied with the bare minimum, just to get a C, right? To be an average Jew and be Yitzchak Vasai, right? He says, let's say a son really loves his father, is infatuated by his dad. He wants to go even above and beyond. His father doesn't need to push him to do the stuff. If he knows something makes his father... Here's the thing. If his father hints that there's a certain thing, for example, let's say his father hints that he likes chocolate. So the son that really loves his dad is going to bring, for example, his father a lot of chocolate. You get what I'm saying? He doesn't have to tell his son, go buy me chocolate. The more he knows his dad, and in a sense, this is what makes his dad happy, he's more than happy to go above the letter of the law, even though his father didn't instruct him, right? That's what Chasidut is. Even if the father just hinted to it or just mentioned it in passing or said it once, you see, that's why I say Chasidut is a very deep intuition, right? That you listen. You also have to understand. In Hashem, the letter of the law is hard enough to keep as it is, right? Not to say lashon hara. So Hashem is not going to give, and perhaps not every Jew has the capacity to be a chassid, right? It's very difficult. But these are things that makes Hashem happy, and He makes us wonderfully close to Him by doing these actions of Chasidut, piousness. So He says, so it's like a son that does his father, even though his father only hinted to him or said that this is a lofty and wonderful thing, right? And it comes from such a closeness and deep understanding of our Father. Our real Father is the Father in heaven, right? So when we learn Torah and we know, wow, this makes Hashem happy, then we go above the letter of the law to bring Hashem pleasure. We don't have to wait for Hashem to instruct us. He says, this is, in every relationship you have chasidus, the Ramchal says, between a husband and a wife, right? Between two lovers, or like two, love doesn't have to be sexual love. There could be brotherly love. There could be like the love of two best friends that would, they're blood brothers. Or like a father to son. A true friend or a great spouse doesn't have to be told what to do. It becomes such an intimacy and such a love and such a respect and that, like, for example, let's say a wife wants to make her husband happy, so she knows he likes mushrooms or like mushroom baraka because they ate it once. So if she makes it, did the husband have to tell her to make this specific dish? But once, you understand, her husband knows his wife likes a certain type of flour. You don't have to. Does it say in the ketubah you have to bring your wife purple flowers because purple is her favorite color? You understand? That's what the idea of Chasidut is. He says, klalo shel davar. The basic gist of what we're trying to say is, kol mi she'aveu benehem azah be'emet. If there's a real love between two in a relationship, shelo yamer lo yisav yoter. There's no excuse to say, oh, I wasn't told. Dai b'ma shenasati beferush. Ela b'ma shenasavel yadon hamitzvah v'ishtadel la'asot kol ma she'o. In any relationship, once you get to know your brother well, your spouse well, your father well, you see what he likes, and you go above and beyond the call of duty, even though he hasn't commanded you. That's what we need to do for Hashem, right? If you're a true faithful servant of Hashem, what does Hashem love? Hashem loves kindness. Hashem loves the mitzvos. And like my Rosh Hashiva Zatzar Rav Weinberg said, that's why I have to learn Torah and also be a very deep thinker, like Maharal, Kabbalah. You have to see what the value of the mitzvah is. Right? That's one of the reasons why it's very important for us to learn Kabbalah, to learn the Taimei HaMitzvahs, right? The mitzvah stands for a certain ethical, moral value. So once you see the underpinnings of the mitzvah, you can even take it a step further. So he says, "Va'az lo yamar dai li b'ma she'amar ferush." So the chassid is the person that is. One thing we see clear here: Chasidut is a direct outcrop, an outgrowth of love of Hashem. You understand? So you're not the guy is not just looking to be Yitzhak and just run away to go make his money, right? And have his plays golf. Or he's such in a serious love of Hashem that he wants to take the relationship further, even if he doesn't. He's not commanded by the letter of the law to do what he needs to do. So the chassid is a person that says, I'm not looking to do the bare minimum, but since I know Hashem loves this, I want to give God the maximum pleasure. And I want to go more and more. And I want to do it in the most complete way, because this is the will of Hashem. And that's what, so the Ramchal is defining for us what Chasidut means. You know what Chasidut means? Ose nachat ruach liyotzra. So this is a totally new definition. In the mind of many people, Chasidut is maybe having long payas. And I just want to say that maybe it would be appropriate at one time to explain the different what the great values and virtues and that the Baal Shem Tov's Chasidus brought. And many people superficially think that was a movement that literally saved Klal Yisrael, right? The Baal Shem Tov's Chasidus is throughout the Holocaust. More people definitely survived the Holocaust because of their love of Hashem. And that's something different than this, right? The Ramchal preceded the Baal Shem Tov, right? The Ramchal's definition of Chasidus, there's Rav Yehuda Chassid, right? There was Chasidim in the Gemara, right? That was a different, the Baal Shem Tov's Chasidus, which it really is worthy of a whole shir to explain what great things he did, and it literally was Hatzalat Nefashot for the Jewish nation, and all the different Rebbes, Rab Nachman, and they all have it's just like a beautiful rainbow of roses that each one of them has their own beautiful fragrance and vitamin and virtue to play in this beautiful orchestra. But this, right, the Ramchal is telling you the classical meaning of Chasidut is something that I think, did it come to your mind that that's what Chasidus means? Chasidus means la'asot nachat ruach liyotzreinu, that you want to give Hashem the maximum pleasure that you want, even though you don't have to, right? Because you know, be'ela chafatzti, Hashem likes this. Nimsa klal haChasidut harchavat kiyum mitzvot b'chol tzadim. So we expand our observance of mitzvahs even more than we're yotze, right? So when you find in the poskim midas chasidus, this is going over there. That you want to go above the letter and the law of all your observance of the mitzvahs, right? That's where Chasidus takes you. Because you know for a fact that these things give pleasure to the Eibishter. So he says, perishut, abstinence, and Chasidut are again two sides of the same coin. Perishut is not doing what Hashem doesn't like. And Chasidut is going and doing the positive things that Hashem does like, even though you don't have to, if it's above the letter of the law. So, guys, I think from here we could bring another Yeside out. You know what that is? There's inappropriate Chasidus. Because and that was the Chiddush of Rav Yisrael Salanter, right? When we keep the mitzvot, we always have to have two eyes open. That's why we have two tablets, right? The 5, we're literally 2 weeks away from Shavuot. We always have to, which means the true chassid is not only a chassid between him and Hashem, but he's extra careful not to pain people, right? He's very careful. Like they once asked Rav Yisrael Salanter, what's the biggest kavanah we should have when we bake matzahs? He said, the woman that's cleaning the floor, don't shout at her, because she's a widow, Jewish widow. And she has so all I just want to bring out is also that the true chassid is always cognizant of ben adam lechavero, his interpersonal, his being kind-hearted and tolerant and respectful, and Never, never, God forbid, breaking anybody's heart, that we talked about in our podcast today about Lotonisha. We can't have vengeful, you know, antagonistic words that breaks people's heart. So he says, Baruch Hashem, we finish this chapter. That's the real Chasidut, and then he's going to go to explain it in chapter 19.